Our distinguished keynote speaker, Dorris Dee Dee Wright. Born right here in Greenville, Ms. Wright's journey as a trailblazer began at just 15 when she became president of the NAACP Greenville Youth Council. Her leadership played a pivotal role in Greenville's first sit-ins in 1960, which led to the landmark Supreme Court decision in Peterson versus Greenville, ending government-aided discrimination. As one of the Greenville Eight, she courageously fought to desegregate the public library and organized statewide protests alongside civil rights icons. Her legacy is enshrined in cases like Edwards versus South Carolina, where the Supreme Court upheld the right to peaceful protest. Ms. Wright's impressive academic achievements include a master's degree in counseling and psychology, and her dedication to service has earned her prestigious awards such as the NAACP's Martin Luther King Humanitarian Award and Rainbow Push's Freedom Fighter and Legacy Award. Even in retirement, her impact continues as she helps shape communities and inspire future generations. Please join me in welcoming a true pioneer and lifelong advocate for justice, Ms. Dee Dee Wright.
Good afternoon. I was really concerned whether everybody was going to be asleep by the time I got up here. But I know that you all are alert and you've been spiritually fed, soul food fed, and about to be Dee Dee Wright fed. I tell you, I have, this afternoon, I am just so thrilled. I'm also very nervous, and I got my partner in the movement here. She's in Greenville. My dear, dear friend, Leola Clement Robinson. Just wave your hand, Leola. My other friend is here, that's Linda White Butler. Just wave your hand, Linda. Now, I know I'm looking cute standing up here. But however, in coming down these 2 hours, I needed a driver. My driver and friend, Cheryl Morrow, please raise your hand. I have so enjoyed myself in Greer. Councilman Booker, where are you? Thank you and your wife so much for dinner last night. You fed us again one more time. And these lovely babies. Look at y'all. Oh my goodness, our progeny. Thank you so much. I want to thank where's Mr. MC? It's about time for you to sit down. You can take a seat now. Thank you so much for that introduction. You see, I was born right up the road here in Greenville, and I am honored to be here for your 23rd celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and celebration. Your mayor's been here almost as long as a little longer than y'all been celebrating. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. However, in keeping with the national theme of Dr. Martin Luther King's celebration, Mission Possible, protecting freedom, justice, democracy in a nonviolent atmosphere, 365 days a year. But I want to share with you a brief history of how this day came to be. We all celebrated and we got this date and that date, but it took 18 years for us to acknowledge this man. 4 days after Dr. King was assassinated, that's when we're calling it assassinated, Congressman John Conyers from Detroit, 4 days, introduced legislation that he felt it should be a national holiday. So here we are. However, If Dr. King was killed in when? Come on. All right, 1968. It wasn't until 1982-83 session that it became a holiday. President Ronald Reagan signed it into law. But we didn't celebrate it nationally until 1986. So we talk about all the things that Dr. King has done, but let us also remember how he got there and how this day got to be here. Several months after the Supreme Court decision of Edwards versus South Carolina, Dr. King wrote his famous letter from the Birmingham jail. Just a few months after. I don't know if it was coincidental or not, but I would like to think that it was. King wrote, "We must be continually vigilant in our pursuit for justice and fair play. As they call us extremists, Amos was an extremist when he stated, Amos, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Jesus was an extremist for love, truth, and goodness. I say to you that this nation cannot survive with 1% of the wealth being held by a few and the 99% poor. But let me just go back a moment in time. Before there was a Dr. Martin Luther King, there was a man named Robert Smalls, born in 1838 in Beaufort, South Carolina. His mother sent him to Charleston at the age of 12. He worked various jobs as a waiter, a ship rigger, and a sailor. And in 1856, he got married to his hotel maid, and he bought her freedom for $800. Can you imagine buying somebody's freedom? However, he was still determined to escape the chains of slavery. At the onset of the Civil War in 1861, it brought about a pivotal opportunity. He found himself as a deckhand, and the ship captains at the time would go out and have a little drinks and go to the red light district. So he felt it was an opportunity to take hold of the ship. And he sailed that ship, the Planter, into the waters. But imagine this, it was cloudy that morning as they were sweeping into Charleston. But as the gods would be, the sun broke through. His wife, let's talk about women. His wife tore up some sheets, strung up the line, the white flag of surrender. Abraham Lincoln went on to appoint him as a Navy captain. So you can see Dr. King had that foundation even then. Robert Smalls was also responsible for public education in the state of South Carolina being written into the South Carolina Constitution. So we can see that we've had great men that have come before us. It's just a small part. But your great city of Greer, South Carolina. I was telling Councilman Booker, it seems to me, I don't remember, that I used to come here and pick peaches. And go home crying with my thumb in my mouth, and my mother putting powder on me so I wouldn't itch all over the place. But I love your motto, city of choice. And in diversity, the diversity shows that you have made this your city of choice. It reminds me of a story of two women, Mary and Martha. They were sisters who had invited the Galilean Jesus into their home. Mary sat at the knee of Jesus and savored the stimulus of his worldly discussion and responded to the depth of his profundity and the worldly discussion and how he had founded this world. I see the preacher just shaking their head. Go on now. I'm taking it from you right now. However, Mary was in the kitchen just busy cooking, and finally she complained, said she needed some help. But Mary just sat there at the knee of Jesus. Okay. Martha, on the other hand, she was just cooking and serving the guests, and finally when she complained she needed Mary's help, Jesus suggested that some women chose to be Mary and some chose to be Martha. And I guess I'm a little Mary. However, she was preparing for us in a world like we see today. I'm speaking of human success, however, not women's success. The apostle said, okay, preacher, I'm going with you. There is no male or female. Those of you familiar with that in the Old Testament, you know what I'm talking about. However, but in keeping with the Martin Luther King national theme, there are colleagues and there are challenges, my colleagues, in the days ahead. We have a new administration, but we must not lose sight of what may lie ahead. We must work together to protect freedom, justice, and our democracy. Not as women or men, but this cannot be, underscore, agenda issue. Somewhere I read, a woman journalist wrote about the subtleties of women and men. She wrote that for every woman who is tired of acting weak when she knows she's strong, there is a man who is tired of appearing strong when he feels vulnerable. For every woman who is tired of acting dumb, there's a man who has the burden to be the constant expectation of knowing everything. For every woman who is tired of being a sex object, there's a man who worries about his potency. All right. For every woman who's been tired of being called an emotional female, there is a man who is denied the right to weep and to be gentle. For every woman who is denied meaningful employment and equal pay, there's a man who must bear full responsibility for another human being. This is what is ahead for us today. This is a part of Dr. King's legacy. What we can do if we are open to meet the challenges that are before us. The challenges during the civil rights movement compelled Dr. King and youth like myself to do the things that black folk dare not do. It was a tumultuous time for us. Like the MC said, I was 15 years old when I participated in my first sit-in movement. I was a part of 2 U.S. Supreme Court decisions. Edwards versus the state of South Carolina, and Peterson versus Greenville, where 10 high school students and several underage students, my dear friend being one of the underage ones. I'm going to yield my age to her today. They were put in detention for protesting our First and 14th Amendment. So the case of Edwards versus the state of South Carolina allows today union workers, Amazon workers, and many others to rightfully protest. Think about that. To right to stand up, fight for something that you believe that is right and righteous. It also allowed Dr. King the right to march in Washington in 1968 on my back when I was arrested. And in his speech, he used metaphors like desert, valley of despair, shadow and light, to help create an understanding of how African Americans felt with segregation and limited rights, as well as how justice and freedoms would benefit Black Americans today. But today as never before, we must be especially prepared, determined, and focused on our pursuit for social independence and empowerment. Absolutely nothing should separate us from one imperative, which is true self-reliance. The City of Greer has done well with this participation with BMW and Michelin to grow this city. And as we go back to our jobs, I want you to know that we must be willing not to be like 4 people that I know. Everybody, somebody, anybody, nobody. When there's a job to be done, everybody was asked to do it. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody would not do it. Consequently, it ended up that nobody told anybody, so everybody blamed somebody. Again, our mandate is to help and reorder the economy and the social system and not fall prey to the obstacles constantly placed in the way or blame others on our failure. I believe that the dream and the vision of Dr. King is partially filled. Therefore, I bequeath to you on this day, in the majesty of the moment, the sustaining legacy of hope. But most of all, I bequeath to you the spirit of self-appreciation and togetherness. Without these special gifts, all is lost. And one of Dr. King's quotes that I truly love is, when we talk about love, and I quote, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." And when you choose to live without love, you automatically choose a life of either apathy or hate. Finally, this is what has kept Dee Dee Wright going. I'll leave you with my life lessons. I have learned 3 life lessons. Number 1, nothing is permanent. Number 2, fear does not mean stop. Fear is as powerful as you allow it to be. And in truth, we should interpret that most fear is a natural emotion that pops up every time we venture to do something outside of our comfort zone. Number 3, and finally, the power to change my life that impacted me, but is how I responded to it. These life lessons I've used in the movement. It was a struggle and a sacrifice. They inspired me to be relentless in making my future better than my past. Let the history of the struggle and the sacrifices of the civil rights movement inspire you and you and you and you to be relentless in working to make his dream and my dream a reality. I thank you.
On behalf of Nu Delta Zeta Chapter, Taylor's, Greer, and Travelers Rest chapters, we would like to present you with a small token of our love to let you know that we are thinking about you, and we are so proud that you chose Greer to come today to speak. And also, as the state director of the Life Members, welcome.
Thank you so very much. I would really be remiss. I got a little nervous. I'm seeing all you people, and I wanted to acknowledge my sorority, not Kamala Harris' sorority. I'm going to give you a little history about Zeta Phi Beta sorority. For those of you who went to college on a Pell Grant, I know a lot of you did. Oh, yes, you did. That legislation was written by a sorority sister of mine, Dr. Deborah Cannon Wolf, who worked for Adam Clayton Powell. So I just want to let you know we come from good stock as well. Thank you so much.